Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Anderson here, aka Renfail, and welcome to my overview video on Icewind Dale, the Enhanced Edition. Now, I've been going through the Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2 games, and I'm going to be diving into Icewind Dale and Icewind Dale 2 before we get to Baldur's Gate 3, which is launching in early access on September 30th from Larian Studios. Expect to see me streaming that on Twitch exclusively, probably throughout the entire month of October. Get my dates right. I'm streaming early morning sessions, sometimes start around 6, 7 a.m. Central Time and go all the way up to around noon-ish. So if you want to watch me live playing Baldur's Gate 3, stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can follow along here with what I'm doing with these overview videos, and if you want to watch me play these games live, obviously head over onto Twitch and subscribe there. All the links are below. So, without further ado, I have been playing these games to get prepped for the Baldur's Gate 3 launch, getting myself back into the world of Faerun, hyped and prepped, ready for the lore, and just kind of going back to the games that I played in my late teens and early 20s, and these games that kind of really defined that top-down isometric party-based role-playing game. This game takes a lot from the first Baldur's Gate game. So if you did the transition like I did in the beginning, you played Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, and then went straight to Icewind Dale, and it can be somewhat of a switch because you go from being a low-level character starting off at level 1 in Baldur's Gate 1, and then you start off around, I think it's level 7, level 8 or so in Baldur's Gate 2, and you can go, all the way up to like 20 plus. And then when you come back around to Icewind Dale, you're back at being a level 1 character, and that can be somewhat disconcerting if you're playing the games back to back like I am, because it's like you go from being low level, working your way up, being mid level to high level, and really having a whole repertoire of spells at your disposal, and then coming right back around to where you are a level 1 character again, which can be frustrating for some people, but it is worth it because by the time you get around to Icewind Dale 2, you're fully immersed in the Icewind Dale part of the world and that lore and setting, and you understand what's going on with Kuldahar and these other places that you're going to be visiting in Icewind Dale 2. So Icewind Dale 1, one of the first things I love about this game is this intro sequence. Baldur's Gate 1's intro sequence was very short in comparison. Baldur's Gate 2 was a little more cinematic. This one, though, I really like the opening sequence for Icewind Dale because it is, candlelight flickering, the book opens up, and then you're going into this, really kind of old school stylistic, kind of I would call it a minimalistic style of art as the pages flip and the narrator talks about this history that happened with this barbarian shaman named Jared, and etc., and the demon armies, and what happened to cause that to come to an end. And when you get started into the game, it gives you a better idea of where you're going to be in terms of the lore. Now, if you look at the way that this game starts out compared to the other games in this series, the really big difference here is that in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you were playing you had a party, but you were representing a single character. So you had that character who was the child of Baal, and that was your storyline. And so you were playing a character that kind of already had a predetermined background, so to speak. And when you get into Icewind Dale, you're going to quickly find that that's not the case in this game. In this game, it's all about having a party of adventurers. And of course, you can create your own party, you can roll all the stats, you can do all the things you could do in the other games. But the objective here is that you aren't playing from the perspective of a single character who's running around with his companions. So the one thing that's also lacking in this game is you're not going to see like the romance options and some of the back and forth dialogue that would go on between members of your parties in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 because of their alignments and so on and so forth. So you notice, especially in Baldur's Gate 2, that was a big thing. You had the romance options. You also had all of the back and forth, like, Jahira talking to, like the dwarf, I forget his name now, and then Mazzy arguing with Minsk and so on and so forth. So you don't have that in this game because the characters in this game it's not about them as, defined player characters or even defined non-player characters. It's just a series of random adventurers who get together to meet up in this place and go out on this adventure. So again, you can either choose to create your characters from scratch, or you can go in here and they have these predetermined character parties. So when you first get going, they automatically give you a predetermined group that has its own background, and you can read about the characters and who they are and everything else. I mean, you can choose to just jump into the game right away from there. And each one has a kit description and as well as a character biography, which explains to you who they are and etc. Every time I played this game in the past, I always created my own party and did it from there. But this time around in the playthrough that I've been doing, I just went with the predefined party that they gave me because it looked pretty balanced, and I was like, let's try something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. And so from there I just jumped right in. And you'll notice here that this is again a little bit different because you are just jumping into a story where you're controlling a group of characters. So you are a group of travelers who, as the narrator says, huddled around a table, swapping tales and making grand plans for the future, completely unaware of the part they are to play in the events that are about to unfold. Which is a great way to get you started because you're in a tavern, which is amazing because it's like, Dragonlance and all these other great D&D storylines where you get started off, you're in the tavern, that's where the adventure starts. You're immediately approached by a man named Hrothgar, who turns out to be an ex-adventurer who is the protector and sort of mayor of this town, so to speak. And he's going to talk to you about this this expedition that he's putting together. And from there, the adventure gets going. The tutorial is basically you running around the town, performing some small tasks for the people around the immediate village. There's, of course, a crisis that is immediately necessary for you to help the people of the town with, and then as soon as you get past that crisis, you then move into undertaking the expedition that Hrothgar mentioned to you, which basically you come to find out that there's been these strange things happening in a nearby village of Kildahar, and this is a place where once you start, as you kind of get going, you'll find out that everyone there, everyone around there kind of views this place as a backwoods, kind of out of the way little hut village made of sticks and muds, and it's just a bunch of druids and backwater nobodies. But as you get going into the game, you're going to uncover this overall storyline, and there's a lot more going on than what you initially thought. Gameplay wise, this game, like I said, again, it harkens back to the Baldur's Gate 1 environments in terms of you being a low level character again. However, I will say that I think the zones, because by this point BioWare and Black Isle, etc., had multiple successes with Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, so they've had a lot more experience with the engine and putting together this kind of breathtaking world. And I will say that the environments in Icewind Dale compared to the first two, especially in this Enhanced Edition, the environments are much better and just more defined. There's more detail packed into the zones. And it just feels like a better game, even though you're going back to the roots of being a first level character again. There's also more voiceovers in this game than there was in Baldur's Gate 1. I don't think it compares to Baldur's Gate 2 per se. I think Baldur's Gate 2 is still a bigger game than Baldur's Gate 1. But this game is obviously a step in the evolution of their engine and what they were doing with these top-down isometric games. Now, because of the fact that this is sort of following in the footsteps of the first two, I think that Icewind Dale as a game is, I almost feel like it's a little lesser of a game, if that makes sense. It's still a big game. and there's still a lot going on, and it's got amazing ratings and etc. There's a lot of bug fixes in the new version, but and there's a lot of new content as well. But some people don't like, for example, the story mode difficulty level, which I don't mind. It's a great way for you to get back into um, the world of Faerun. Now I know, like Josh Sawyer, who's one of the designers in the original game, he actually kind of criticized the enhanced edition. He's one of the main designers on Icewind Dale, and he's talking about how all these kits and everything which destroy the balance, and that's one of those things where the game's balance has been taken out of date, compared to what it was like originally. I also say the same thing can be applied to the difficulty level of the game, but it's still a great game. And I think if you like the world of Faerun and you like playing these games from BioWare and you're a big BioWare fan like I was, it's an absolute blast to get into here, and just dive in and see what you like. Coming into it in 2020, I'd say you're definitely going to look at it and say, hey, the graphics are a little bit outdated compared to modern standards. But if you can look past that, I still think it's a great looking game, especially considering how many people play these retro games on Switch and so on and so forth, that have like pixelated graphics. This is a really good game. And if you're like me, one of the things with Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 is you're always stuck in the Sword Coast. But with Icewind Dale, you're in the Icewind Dale region. So it's the frozen north. It's a completely different environment. It's completely different lore, completely different people, background, so on and so forth. And you will continue to meet characters and visit locations, if you're familiar with the books, that make this game truly a gem to dive into. I still think that Icewind Dale 2 is a better game than Icewind Dale 1, just like I think Baldur's Gate 2 is a better game than Baldur's Gate 1. But this is definitely still a game that you should try out if you're interested in the series and you want to continue to prep yourself for the return to Faerun in Baldur's Gate 3 coming down the pipeline September 30th. Early access, can't wait. So I'll see you all over on Twitch for the live streams in the morning. Don't forget to subscribe here, hit the bell icon, check out all of the links below, and we'll see you either live on Twitch or here on YouTube or in game somewhere someday. Who knows? Until next time, safe gaming.